gotta like it cause the hood don't love it. You ain't gotta like it cause the hood don't love it. Watch a young nigga show his ass out in public.
What's good, big timers? It's RDL here, and I'm back with another video. I know it's been a minute since I made a video, but I'm back now. And today I'm gonna be talking about this movie called The Crow. This video is a remake and re-upload of my original video because the original one was partially bought from YouTube and I had to make a lot of changes to it, so hopefully this one does better than my old one. Now, before this video starts, if y'all have not seen my previous videos, I highly recommend checking them out after this video. And also, rest in peace to the legendary Tony Todd, who just passed away last month on the 6th from unknown circumstances. He's a very well-known horror icon, and he's also in this movie that I'm about to preview. Also, in this movie, The Crow, he plays as Top Dog's right-hand man named Grange. I was supposed to make this video weeks ago, but as y'all know already, I'm in college, but the semester is over now, so, well, at least until January, so I guess you're gonna be seeing more videos of me this month, hopefully. But anyways, let's get into it. So starting off, we get introduced to a police sergeant named Daryl Albert, who is investigating a horrific crime scene that took place a few hours ago on Devil's Night. For those of you who don't know, Devil's Night is basically Halloween Eve. We learned that a rock musician named Eric Draven was shot and thrown out of a window to his death. A woman named Shelley Webster, who was Eric's fiancé, was found brutally beaten and raped to an inch of her life. We also find out that the two were supposed to get married on Halloween, which practically would have been on the next day if this horrific crime scene didn't happen. We also get introduced to a little girl named Sarah, who happens to be a friend of Eric and Shelley. Eric and Shelley took care of Sarah when her mother wasn't able to. Sarah shows up outside of their apartment in a crowd to see what was happening. While Shelley was getting taken to the hospital, she asked where Eric was, and Officer Albert lied to her by saying that Eric is still alive. Officer Albert tried to reassure Sarah that Shelley was going to pull through, but Sarah knew that Shelley wasn't going to make it. About a year later, Sarah visited Eric and Shelley's gravesite on Devil's Night, which is the same day that they got murdered. After Sarah left, a supernatural crow resurrected Eric from his grave. Eric returns to his apartment, which is now abandoned. At first, he had no memories of what happened to him. Eric recognized a white cat named Gabriel and wanted to pick him up, but when he did just that, he started to get flashbacks of what happened to him and Shelley from Gabriel's point of view. In the flashback sequence, we see a squad of psychopathic thugs sent by their leader named Top Dollar to break into their apartment and brutally beat on Shelley. They also started destroying the apartment and taunting her. When Eric returned home, he saw what was happening, and just before he could react, Tintin threw a knife at his chest and incapacitated him. Eric helped literally watch the thugs brutally sexually assault her one by one. After they were done with Shelley, Eric gets held up by his arm and gets shot in his chest several times before getting thrown several stories out of his own window. After learning about what happened to him and his fiancé, Eric discovered that he had a healing factor and has decided to get revenge on the people responsible for their deaths. The first man that Eric goes after is Tintin, the same man who incapacitated him with a throwing knife. Eric tortured and killed him by using his own throwing knives against him and stabbed him in his organs in alphabetical order. After learning from Tintin that he pawned his wedding ring, Eric went to a pawn shop owned by a guy named Gideon, the same place where his wedding ring was at. Eric interrogates Gideon for info and has finally retrieved his ring. After getting his ring, he gets some more info on his next target named Funboy. Eric spares Gideon because he wants to send a message to his targets. When Eric walks out of the shop, he blows it up after dousing it with gasoline. Officer Albert encountered Eric and attempted to arrest him, but he vanished before he was able to. A little bit later, Sarah was about to skateboard across the street and was almost hit by a car, but Eric showed up just in time to save her. At first, she didn't recognize Eric because of his face paint. When Eric called it
all the time,
Sarah immediately recognized him, but when she turned around, he disappeared. A little bit later, Eric went after Funboy, who was doing drugs with a woman named Darla, who happens to be Sarah's mother. Eric made Funboy accidentally shoot himself in the leg while Darla ran away and hid herself in the bathroom. Funboy passes out from the pain and Eric takes him to the bathroom where Darla was hiding at and puts him in the bathtub. Eric walks over to Darla, who is sitting in the corner with a razor knife, completely terrified of him. Eric easily disarmed her and grabbed her from the corner so she could look in the mirror. Eric gives the Darla a well-deserved wake-up call to stop doing drugs and be a mother to Sarah. After hearing what she needed to hear, Darla grabbed her stuff and ran all the way home. While Eric wasn't paying attention, Funboy recovered and attacked him from behind with a razor knife. Eric gained the upper hand by stabbing him in the stomach. He interrogated him for more info about his next targets and kills him by overdosing him on morphine. Later on, Eric went to visit Officer Albert for more answers on what happened to him and Shelly. Officer Albert offered to let Eric take a look at his files of what happened to him that night, but Eric managed to retrieve his memories and found out that he stayed with Shelly at the hospital for 30 hours until she eventually passed away from her injuries. Meanwhile, Gideon, the pawn shop owner, is being interrogated by Top Dollar, and he tells Top Dollar about Eric. After telling him everything he needed to know, Top Dollar killed him by impaling him in the throat with his own sword and shoots him several times. We see Eric on the roof playing an electric guitar, and Sarah listens to Eric's music album and knows the same quote that she heard earlier. It can't rain all the time in one of his songs. This convinced Sarah that Eric might still be alive. A bit later, T-Bird and Skink planned on doing a robbery, but they noticed that their friend Funboy didn't show up. T-Bird sent Skink to rob a store while he waited in the car for him. While Skink was robbing the store, Eric showed up from the back seat and held T-Bird hostage. He forced him to drive while Skink races to catch up to him. Eric and T-Bird stopped at the docks. While being tied up, T-Bird recognized Eric and becomes increasingly terrified. Eric lights up the dynamite and places it on T-Bird. He also started the car and it began to drive by itself. As Skink finally made it to the docks to save T-Bird, it was already too late as he watches the car explode in front of his eyes. And the next morning, Top Dollar's right-hand man named Grange investigated Eric's gravesite and discovers that his body is missing, which confirms that Eric is alive. Meanwhile, Sarah woke up to see her mother Darla making breakfast and attempting to make amends with her. Although Sarah was suspicious at first, the two of them eventually began to reconcile. In the afternoon, Sarah went to Eric's abandoned apartment. At first, Eric was hiding and Sarah almost left because she thought he didn't care about her anymore, but Eric came out hiding to prove that he did care. Eric and Sarah reunited as they hugged each other. In the afternoon, Sarah and Officer Albert talked to each other about Eric for a little bit. After their little talk, Officer Albert walks her back home. Meanwhile, Eric plays the guitar on the rooftop for one last time before destroying it and going after his final target, Skink. Later on that night, Top Dollar is at a meeting talking about his plans to burn down Detroit while Eric is outside listening. Eric walks into the meeting and demands that Top Dollar hand over Skink, but he refuses and has his crew shoot him several times before falling off the table. Immediately afterwards, Eric recovered and killed most of his crew in a very long shootout, while Top Dollar escaped. After the shootout was over, Eric finally confronted Skink and killed him by throwing him out of a window. The police attempted to arrest Eric, but he escaped. Top Dollar came up with a plan to kill Eric by taking out the supernatural crow so he could be more vulnerable. Eric, who has slowly become more tired and weak, goes to the cemetery to visit Shelly's gravesite, but he sees that Sarah was sleeping there waiting for him. Eric gives Sarah a necklace as a parting gift to her. While Sarah was leaving, Top Dollar kidnaps her and holds her hostage. While Eric was paying his respects to Shelly, he gets alerted by the crow that Sarah is in trouble and rushes to go save her. Eric goes to a church where Sarah was being held at. While looking around, Crane shoots and injures the crow. Eric is now completely vulnerable and gets shot in the shoulder by Top Dollar. As Grange was about to kill the crow, Officer Albert showed up just in time to save Eric and kills Grange. During the shootout, he gets injured and Eric has to go by himself to save Sarah. Eric is stopped by Micah, who is Top Dollar's lover and half-sister. Yes, you heard me correctly. Anyway, she has the crow held hostage and planned on taking its powers for herself. Just when she was about to kill Eric, the crow plucked her eyes out and Micah ended up falling to her death. Eric finally reached the rooftop where Top Dollar kept Sarah hostage at. Top Dollar pretended to surrender Sarah to him and tried to attack him with his sword. Eric grabbed a steeple and used it as a weapon against Top Dollar. Top Dog eventually gained the upper hand and impaled him with his sword. Just before Top Dog could kill him, Eric transferred 30 hours of Shelly's pain to Top Dog all at once. Top Dog falls to his death and gets impaled. Eric saves Sarah and goes to check on Officer Albert to make sure he's okay. While the police and ambulance were nearby, Eric disappeared and went to the cemetery. Eric sees Shelly one final time before passing on. Shortly after, Sarah went to the cemetery and the crow gave her Eric's parting gift that she dropped before leaving again. And that's the end of the movie. Now here are my final thoughts. This movie is definitely a classic to this day. The acting, the editing, and the cinematography was very spectacular, especially considering the circumstance of what happened during the making of this film. For those of you who don't know, the guy who played Eric Draven, his name is Brandon Lee. He is also the eldest child of his late father, Bruce Lee. During the making of this film, Brandon was accidentally shot and killed while filming a scene of the flashback sequence that was shown in the beginning. At the time of his death, Brandon was only 28 years old and was supposed to get married to his fiancé after he finished filming. In my opinion, the circumstance around his death feels pretty sketchy, and there's some creepy similarities too. Like, for example, both Brandon Lee and his character Eric Draven both died at a young age and right before they got married. Another example is that both Brandon Lee and his father Bruce Lee died just when their careers were about to take off. The only difference is that Bruce Lee was 32 years old when he died, while Brandon Lee was only 28 years old when he died. They both died at a very young age, 20 years apart. Bruce Lee died in 1973, while Brandon died in 1993. So yeah, those are my reasons why I think the circumstances are pretty sketchy. But anyways, let's get back to this video. So because of this incident, the makers of this film didn't know whether or not they should continue making this film or not. Almost 99% of this movie was completed, and Brandon was scheduled to shoot for only 3 more days. Paramount Pictures were interested in distributing the film, but because of the delays and Brandon's death on set, they refused, and that's where Miramax came in. Miramax added $8 million into the movie's budget to help them finish it. They also had to rewrite the flashback scenes, and Brandon's stunt double named Chad Stahelski had to be used as a stand-in and replace his face with CGI so they could finish the film. Now, for those of you who don't know who Chad Stahelski is, he's the director of the John Wick movies, and he's also been a stunt double for a lot of action movies and Marvel movies, so go check him out. He's been around for a long time. But anyway, so there was also supposed to be a character from the original comic book called Skull Cowboy, but she was cut from the movie due to Brandon's death. They also had to cut down a lot of the violence of this film to avoid an NC-17 rating. Despite the tragic circumstance of this film, they managed to finish it as a tribute to Brandon Lee and his fiancé, and it went on to earn $94 million at the box office against a $23 million budget. This film is still very popular to this day, and it aged pretty well for its time too. This film was also ranked at number 37 in IGN's top 100 comic book heroes. And as typical as Hollywood is, they try to make money by creating sequels of this movie, which they obviously failed. They also just recently made a remake of this film in August of this year, and I'm not sure if that remake is good or bad, so if y'all could tell me in the comments, that would be cool. Also, here are some fun facts about this film. Number 1, Brandon Lee lost 40 pounds just to prepare for this role. Number 2, the director wanted to shoot the entire movie in black and white to make it look closer to the comics, but the studio executives didn't allow him to do it. That would actually be kind of cool. I mean, this is a gothic movie after all. I don't know why they didn't let him. That's kind of stupid, but it's still good though. Number 3, the studio executives originally wanted this movie to be a musical, with Michael Jackson being Eric Draven. But after they casted Brandon Lee, they made the movie more serious than it originally was. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of MJ, but thank God they didn't follow through with this idea. Number 4, during the scene where Eric interrogated Gideon, he accidentally cut his hand while breaking fake glass. Now, how was that possible? I don't know. Number 5, it took an hour and a half to apply Brandon's face paint. Number 6, Cameron Diaz was offered the role of Shelley, but turned it down because she didn't like the script. But to be honest, I don't actually picture her as Shelley, so I guess that was for the best. But anyways, that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button, and if you want to see more videos, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on more videos. I'm gonna be trying to upload all month long, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Yo, I ain't here for the money, I